Hello and welcome. My name is GAYATRI RAJAN. Today I'm here with a family to whom transgender rights is more than a headline. For this family, being transgender is about acceptance, resilience, and unconditional love. How did you go from being a red-blooded Republican, a rugged outdoorsman, and a conservative Republican to be here as Nicole's father and as an advocate for the transgender community?
Well, it doesn't happen overnight. I get asked that question a lot, and actually I get asked by students your age, sometimes in a very sad way, that I wish my dad was like you, or I wish you were my dad. I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of weight to put on somebody. But I always tell them, don't give up on your father yet, because everybody makes this journey at their own pace. And it's a lot easier now because people like you are helping us get the word out. But it took me a long time, from the time she was old enough to talk to the time people started attacking our family. I think that was my last piece. How dare you attack my baby? And when they did that, and all bets are off. You got to do what you got to do, and you reevaluate who you are. And once I did that, I was ready to go. And now I'm here having a great time in Arlington. So problem is we had to live it, or I had to live it to understand it, and we can't wait for the rest of America to live it to understand it. Kids are dying, and families are being destroyed, and they're living in hiding in America, which I cannot fathom, and it's got to stop.
And you say living in hiding. Did you and Nicole ever have to do that because you were transgender?
Yeah, well, after 6th grade, when we had tried to work with our middle school up in Orono, we realized, the school was just not going to cooperate with us anymore, and it had reached the point where I'm not using the right bathroom, I'm having a bodyguard who's following me around, extracurriculars were being affected because there was an outing trip we wanted to go on, and it was a whitewater rafting trip, and these were all the kids that, we had grown up with and had stayed at our house, and the school told us, well, Nicole can go, but she's gonna have to stay in a separate tent with her parents. And it was after that point, it was just, this has become too much of a regular occurrence that we're just fighting with the school, and we had to leave. And after that point, after having fought with the Christian Civic League and the school and the media coverage that was being attracted, we moved 2 hours south to Portland, where we went into hiding, and my parents had to warn Jonas, my brother, and I that you can't tell anybody that you're trans. You can't tell anybody who you are, or we're afraid this is going to happen again. We're afraid we're going to have to move again. And Dad had to stay 2 hours behind in Orono so he could keep his job. So, we had the financial resources to be able to just have a house. So, yeah.
I think what's important too is what she just said. We had the financial resources to do it. There's families all over the country that don't. And they give up they have to quit their jobs and move to another town to try. And even for us back then, what I was worried about, being a 52-year-old, fairly well-paid person, we could move and we didn't have anywhere to go. What town, if we couldn't do this in Maine, where were we gonna go? And now what are those families doing in Arkansas and Texas and West Virginia? They're barely eking by.
So what are the changes that you think the community or the person needs to take so that this can be more of a normal conversation? It doesn't have to be an odd one out kind of situation.
I think the communication that needs to be had around transgender people and transgender issues is just that communication, having an open dialogue between parents and children and schools, employers. Just as a community, people need to be talking and have transgender issues be something that's normalized. And, fortunately, just in the past 10 years, you can see how much media coverage and media attention has normalized transgender people in television and books and literature. I just said books, but it's something that's not so foreign a concept anymore. When I first started trying to express to my parents that I was transgender at 3-4 years old, that was 1999. And there was no information like that, or no information that was positive, because really the only media attention and the only normalized aspect of transgender individuals in the country was that, you know, they were going to grow up to be on the streets and go into sex work. And, you know, that's a really scary thing for, you know, new parents who are trying to just Google what's happening to their child. And when all that kind of nonsense pops up, then it's really terrifying. And it was harder for my parents to even wrap their heads around having a transgender child at all, because there was no, you know, real solid information out there. And so that's why it's so hard for people, you know, like my dad when he was just starting out, to accept a transgender child and, you know, work with the child, because the information isn't there and they don't know how they're supposed to deal with it. And that's why it's so important that, you know, just conversations like this one are being had, so people can, you know, see, oh wait, this is a normal thing, this isn't something to be afraid of, my child is not, you know, a devil worshiping heathen, it's fine.
I think it's even simpler than that some days. You know, I have a great friend who's a transgender electrician. There's Christian Beck, who's a Navy SEAL. Whenever I talk to my military friends, I bring her name up. She stayed at our house for 3 days. You know, go out and have coffee with her, or either one of those. Go say hi to somebody in your community, or ask almost every big city or in the state has a transgender organization, and ask them to have somebody come to your school or your church or whatever, and just, well, they're all just normal people, but some of them are wicked cool, you know, like Kristen Beck's hanging out in my basement and teaching my son some defense moves, and you know, it's just kind of fun. Everybody's just trying to grow and prosper and be loved, and they're just like you and I, and reach out and say hi. For middle school kids, I said, that kid that's walking down the hallway every day that nobody talks to, smile and just say hi. That, you know, you'll make their day, and then maybe you'll actually, you know, go play soccer. So sometimes it's pretty simple. It's just, and then, you know, throw our book on the table at Thanksgiving. You know, so it really is. The book it's an easy read, but I've had so many people tell me that kids that didn't know or have the courage to come out have said, you know, you helped, Nicole helped them have the courage to do what they needed to do. But other people, Republican friends, a guy from New Zealand wrote Amy a letter and said, I read the book. Now, he was in town in Portland, Maine not long ago, and we had lunch with him and his son. It was my wife and I, and he owns a big company. He said, I would have never hired somebody that's LGBT, but I do now. So we're you know, it's changing the world. That's probably the most. I'm extremely proud of both of my children, and for us, it was a big commitment to let that many people into our home. But it's really helping change the world. So just got to keep moving it along.
Transgender issues need to be so less foreign a concept. People need to be able to put names to faces and put faces to the issues that we're talking about. And I think, you know, when you're able to connect, you know, actual people and identities to these issues, then it's a lot less harder to, you know, discriminate, marginalize against people, because you're like, these are real people that I know and have talked to that this is affecting.
And just to shift gears a little bit, what does it feel like to be trapped in another body, essentially?
Well, first of all, to be trapped in the wrong body is confusing, especially when, you know, especially for me when I was 3-4 years old and trying to explain something like that to your parents, and, you know, with a 3-4-year-old's vocabulary is, I know fire truck, red, and I hate my penis and want it to fall off. What? So it's really difficult, and I think a lot of people to debunk the issue, sort of, question how could a child know this age. I just was reading something on Facebook in the comment section, because that's what I do when I'm bored, I read the comment section. And someone was saying, kids in high school don't even know, what they want to do when they grow up. How are they supposed to know what sex they are? And I'm like, okay, well, that's probably literally the first thing you know about yourself. Cisgender people, from the moment they're born, have their identities validated, and gendered society is the first thing that we really learn, having pink blankets and blue blankets, and this is what you play with, this is what your sister plays with. And so actually sex is the first thing that children know, and it's also the first thing where they recognize if there's a disconnect. If they're old enough to understand what they are completely old enough to understand what they are not. And that's, I think, what was so interesting with me and my brother having an identical twin, was at the same age he was realizing, oh, I like to play with trucks and action figures. I was realizing I did not like to do all of those things. And so I think we need to be giving kids a lot more credit and really listening to them, because when you're so young and having all of these confusing feelings and now having the responsibility to try to communicate them, parents really need to be open and receptive to what signals are being sent from their child. And maybe a child just is a boy who likes to play with dolls, or maybe your child might be trans, and it's your responsibility as a parent to be open to all of those signals and just not shut your child down.
I get asked that all the time. Wayne, and they were very hesitant to ask me, because it's usually one of my conservative friends. Well, my son really likes to play with dolls, and they're like hoping not. I'm going to give him a good answer. Like, my kid's not going to be transgender. I said, listen, I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? I said, just let them grow up. They'll tell you who they are. But it really is, even today for me, this whole concept of gender is thrown out the window. It just, and I've got it down, but I'm not sure I know how to verbalize it all the time. But it's, it's true to be true that you go, who cares? That's the real issue. Just let them be.
So really, the gender doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
It's really less of an issue about, what gender you are, what sex you are. It's just like, who are you as a person? What do you identify as? How do you just want to exist as a person? And, who is anybody to tell anybody how they can or can't exist?
I really put my emphasis on study hard, get a job.
I do.
Pay taxes.
and
have a good work ethic. If you do that.
I don't have that work.
No, we're still working on that.
Yeah.
You're a college student.
Work in progress.
That's right. But that's America. Man. You do those three things, nobody should bother you.
And kind of to go off of that, how do you think your sense of self has evolved as different people see you differently?
I think my sense of self is a lot more secure, having been able to talk these issues out to so many people, and having been able to have conversations with so many people.
And what you talked about in some of the articles that you've been in is that having an accepting school is a big part of having a good relationship with who you are.
Oh, completely. I think having an accepting school is incredibly important, because when the environment around you is saying, you're not all right, you're not okay, you're different, you need to be placed in a separate bathroom, you need to be separated from all the other kids, that's giving you so many signals like, I'm not all right and I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And it's really, really hard to just be secure in your own head and in your own body, because high school, middle school is already a screwed up time for a lot of people. And then when you've got, grown adults telling you like, you're wrong and you're a pervert and, we need to protect our children from you. I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to study for my test. I'm not trying to get with any of your children. It's all right. Not my type, God. But being able to be in accepting school when I went to Waynfleet in Portland, when I went to Waynfleet, and it was so accepting, and I didn't have, all of those signals like revolving around my identity and, constantly reminding me like, you're different. It gave me the environment to be able to just sort of like have a normal school experience and just be able to work that stuff out for myself without anybody else, like constantly throwing their 2 cents in.
And Wayne, what do you think you did to make the home kind of comforting and encouraging for Nicole?
I listened to my wife. It was that simple. No, I can't take credit for that. I really can't. And that's probably one of the biggest problems with our society today, that most of these children that have supportive parents are their mothers or the women in their life. And men were raised differently, so we have these different perception of what is right and what is wrong and what values. I'm stereotyping a little, but growing up as a woodsman and an athlete, all of those things, the people that I was around, they're the people we're having trouble with now because it just doesn't work for them. And it was Kelly's strong foundation that kept our home safe and then kept me moving in the right direction. If she had been a weak partner from that standpoint, 2 things would have probably happened. Nicole wouldn't be who she is today, or our family would be divorced. And that's a big problem in transgender families. With the husbands, they can't wrap their head around it. And I'm so glad that I did, and I've always loved my children. That was there, that foundation was there that finally brought me where I needed to be. Learning that transgender children, 30% of them don't make it to age 25 if they don't have a supportive family. They have to give up hope and they kill themselves. Going on this journey and learning from my children and my wife and the transgender and the LGBT community as a whole has made me a better person and makes me stronger to do the things that we're doing today. And if I had the money to quit my job tomorrow, I'd be talking to people like you every day. Haven't figured out how to do that because these people need our help. So that's it, I think.
And my last question is for you, Nicole. Mm-hmm. So looking back at the girl who asked her mom, when do I get to be a girl? And the person who you've become today, what advice would you give to yourself as you kind of went through this transition?
It's so weird. I was talking over the past summer with a counselor that I had about, especially when I was gearing up for surgery, it was something that was really, really scary for me because, anytime you're, put under drugs and cut open, it's like, oh my God. And so we had this really long conversation about, Nicole and about Wyatt. And I sort of looked at my life as somewhere that had sort of branched off, where this is really where Wyatt ended and this is where Nicole began. And I think if I was able to, go back, I would first say thank you, because Nicole was really afraid to, undergo surgery, and I was really afraid because it was scary. But, I just kept thinking, I was like, at the point in my life where I was Wyatt was going through so much nonsense at the time that really Nicole hadn't. Nicole, she got to go through the court case. Nicole got to, finally see that victory. But, the timeline of Wyatt was just a lot of confusion and a lot of, like I said, just nonsense from other people. But that was, surgery was that light at the end of the tunnel for me at that point. And so I really just used that. I was like, if you don't do it for me, do it for the kid who went through all of that crap. Because, I think my younger self was entitled to at least that much. And so I think going back, I would first say thank you. And I would just say, don't take crap from anybody. I was like, nobody gets to tell you who you are, who you aren't. Be nicer to your brother. And just, you're perfect the way you are. To my younger self and to trans kids everywhere. It's just, the information is out there. If your parents don't get it, they will. Like he said, don't give up on them. Really just keep looking out for number one, and that's you. Number one is always you. And you just have to take care of yourself. And you know who you are, and regardless of whether or not your parents understand that, there are people out there, A, like you, and B, who will understand that and appreciate it. So I would just say, keep loving yourself, and you're gonna find people who love you too.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Today I'm here with MAURA DEEDY, who is the Assistant Director of the Robbins Library. Today we're going to be talking about the choice of the book Becoming Nicole as Arlington Reads book for this year. Why did you choose Becoming Nicole as the Arlington Reads book for this year?
So the Arlington Reads Together program is put together, the book is selected by a committee made up of librarians, trustees, Friends members, and representatives from Diversity Task Force, a Vision 2020 group, and other community members. So we get together and nominate, this year we nominated 14 titles and winnowed that list down to 5, which were read. And then we come together in October or early November to discuss those books and what would be a great community read. And Becoming Nicole really stood out for its exploration of gender and transgender issues, which is not something we have covered before in a community read. It's also a beautiful story about a family that is very relatable. They could live in Arlington. And we liked the combination of the personal as well as the way the author weaved in history, medical information, and legal information. So it just really stood out as this is the book that we should do right now at this time.
And can you tell us a little bit about the events that you do as part of the Arlington Reads as well?
Right, so we plan a series of events throughout the month, including book discussions. We're really fortunate to have Nicole and Wayne to do a kickoff event this year. It's always really exciting when we can have the author or the subjects of the book. It really makes the whole event so exciting. We will have a gender spectrum panel because there's really no one way to be trans or to perform your gender, even if you're a cisgender person. So bringing individuals together who have different experiences to talk about their personal and professional. We'll have a film, a plug-in program for transgender health with Fenway Health Clinic in Boston.
And as kind of a final question, for those Arlingtonians who are kind of on the fence between reading this book and being part of these events, what would you say is really special about this story?
I think Wayne especially is very relatable in that he is presented with such compassion and empathy in his struggle to understand his daughter and what it is she's going through, and what does this mean when you're assigned male at birth but saying you're a girl. What does that mean? And I think that a lot of people wonder, what does that mean? So I think the book is a wonderful entry into that with so much more information, but the programs are a really wonderful way to also connect with members in the community. And that's really the point of Arlington Reads Together is connection and creating community around a book.
How can people get access to this book?
We have copies available at the library, first come, first serve. As you can imagine, it's very popular right now. And the Arlington Libraries Foundation also purchased multiple ebook copies, which are available through our website as well.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Can everyone hear me? That's fantastic. So, welcome. My name is Andrea Nicolai, and I am the Director of Libraries here in town. I'm delighted to see all of you here today. This is an incredible crowd. We are so honored to host Nicole Maines and her father, Wayne Maines, here today. Many special events take place in this beautiful town hall, and we are happy to be here because the library's community room is not big enough to contain this crowd. And I want to just extend my thanks to the town hall staff for making this space available to the library for this event. Before we bring our guests of honor up, I'd like to say a special word of thanks to Assistant Director of Libraries, MAURA DEEDY. From the moment the Community Read Committee voted to make Becoming Nicole our 2017 Arlington Reads Together selection, MAURA hit the ground running to make this event happen. We knew we had to get Nicole here if we could. She has done an outstanding job reaching out to community groups and just getting the word out about this event and seeing to every last detail. MAURA has a whole list of people to thank on behalf of the library, and I'll let her do that in just a moment. There are also a lot of library staff here today, and I'd also like to thank them for their generous support, including our photographer, Rob. The library's stated mission is that we are a vital community center for all. We create opportunities for lifelong learning, personal fulfillment, and enjoyment that make Arlington a great place to work, live, study, and visit. We are committed to services that anticipate and respond to the needs and interests of all who use the library. With that said, we created this opportunity with the goal of supporting you, the community, in your efforts to learn, to find fulfillment, and to enjoy your afternoon with Nicole and her father, Wayne. I'm proud to mention that this is also an Arlington for All event, a project by the Arlington Human Rights Commission, highlighting diversity in our town and celebrating how embracing our different physical, cultural, and religious histories make us more interesting and stronger as a community. This town-wide campaign includes, yes. This town-wide campaign includes a number of organizations, schools, arts groups, faith communities, and individuals, and you'll be hearing a lot more about it as the years go by. The title of today's event is You Are Part of the Story, and now I'd like to hand the mic over to Assistant Director of Libraries, MAURA DEEDY, who will introduce our awesome main protagonists of this story.
Hi, hello everybody. It is so exciting to see so many people in this room. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to the 2017 Arlington Reads Together Kickoff with Nicole Maines. Today kicks off a whole month of programming centered around Becoming Nicole, the Transformation of an American Family by Amy Ellis Nutt. As Andrea said, I'm MAURA DEEDY. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm the Assistant Director of Libraries and the Arlington Reads Together Coordinator. It has been my pleasure and honor to make this event happen with a great team of people, including the Arlington Reads Together Committee, who read 5 books and ultimately selected Becoming Nicole. Now, for my thank yous, I'd like to thank the Library Board of Trustees, Vision 2020 Diversity Task Group, especially Brooks Harrelson, Friends of Robbins Library, and Friends of Fox Library for bringing Nicole and Wayne to Arlington today. I'd also like to thank our neighbors, First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church, for hosting Nicole and Wayne after this event. Teens have an opportunity to meet Nicole and spend some one-on-one time with her, and Wayne will be in a parents and caregivers forum. These events are also free and open to everyone, and there's tickets available in the lobby. Also want to say thank you to ACMI for filming today's event and supporting all the tech needs, especially Jeff Monroe and James Milan. Thank you so much. And another big thank you to Homewood Suites, Za Restaurant, Trader Joe's, and Not Your Average Joe's for taking care of Wayne and Nicole while they are our guests in Arlington. Arlington Reads Together is in its 14th year and is a collaborative project with Vision 2020 Diversity Task Group as a way to bring together the community through literature. The goal is to address issues, understand differences, and create connections through the shared experience of one book. Throughout March, there will be more opportunities for connections at book discussions, panels, and a film. The next event is on Tuesday, March 7th with Plug into Transgender Health with Ruben Hopwood, coordinator of the Trans Health Program for Fenway Health. If you haven't picked up one of these postcards with all the events, please grab one on the lobby table. Just a quick overview of how today's event will run. Wayne and then Nicole will speak. We'll have time for a Q&A. We'll ask folks to line up at this mic here in the front. And then after following that, Nicole and Wayne will be available for book signing in the back, and our friends at the book rack also have copies of Becoming Nicole for sale. Restrooms are off the lobby, and there's a handicap accessible gender-neutral bathroom just outside the hall. So, all those details taken care of, it is now my pleasure to introduce Wayne. Becoming Nicole is not only the story of a young... sorry, almost. I really like this part, so. Becoming Nicole is not only the story of a young woman, but the transformation and identity of an entire family. Wayne is introduced to readers with compassion and empathy as he struggles to reconcile his vision for his family with his reality, coming to a head when Nicole is harassed and bullied at school over using the bathroom of her gender identity. His mission in life is to provide a safe environment for transgender children to grow, learn, and be safe and become productive members of society. Now, please join me in welcoming Wayne.
Thank you. I got to tell you, this is still pretty surreal, but I've never seen an event promoted as well as I have this. So, the amazing group, what a great town. I went online to search for something, and I saw there's things to do in Boston this weekend. Go see Nicole Maines. Like, I thought maybe the Celtics or something, but we have this book. I think it's. I mean, the backstory of the book is we were approached when the kids were 13 and by some amazing people, and of course Amy Ellis came to our house, and I said, well, you have to meet Kelly. People always ask, and they say thank you to me and to Nicole, but nobody ever sees my wife, and she really is the foundation that keeps us strong, just like most women in the room, and we know, guys, it's not us, just believe me on that. And she goes, we can work on it. She's very hesitant, but she said, this book can't come out until they're out of high school. So that was 3 years. I go, you can wait that long? She goes, well, it takes 3 years to write a good book. And I think the book's even more important now than it was a year ago. So we have some amazing challenges, so we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm so proud to be here and introduce Nicole and just talk a little bit. I won't take all of her thunder. Real quick, I'm pretty proud of this slide. This is me. I've been accused of everything when we started this journey, being a left-wing, LGBT, radical, person. I'm a pretty conservative person in general. Hunting, fishing fanatic, Alaskan trapper. But when we needed help the most, I mean, I've always been a good person, don't get me wrong, and I was taught to the golden rule, treat everybody as you'd like to be treated, and I tried to do that, but I would have never reached out to the LGBT community. I would have been respectful, but I wouldn't have reached out to people with purple spiked hair and nose rings and tattoos and some of the clothes that Nicole wears today. But when we were at our worst, yeah. It's hell to be a parent, I'll tell you, as you know. When we were at our worst, I wrote to the Transgender Law Center and the National Lesbians Association and everybody and their brother. It wasn't my closest conservative friends that came to our aid. It was the LGBT community. And what I learned from that is we're all the same and we all want the same things, but I've never met a more courageous community than that. And I love everybody now. I mean, I would never hug at anybody 5 years ago. I mean, I had this wall. We're trained in my job to, man, you see, I'll cry before this is over, and I'll hug anybody in the room that wants to hug when I'm done. Thank you. The reason I might cry is just some of the press that my family endured. Everybody thinks that we, jumped into this to talk about it, but no, we were pushed into this arena. We didn't want to, we just wanted to raise our kids, and nobody would let us. So there was a lot of drama, a lot of crying, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, but so much joy. We've lost a few people, but we've gained so much more now. And that's any kid in this audience that needs help. You have a lot of family and a lot of friends out there. You just don't know who they all are yet. When we moved to Portland, 2009, my wife quit her job at the University of Maine Police Department. She now works for the Cumberland County Sheriff. We hang out with a lot of Trumpers, I got to tell you that. It's tough, but they all love my daughter. They just don't have their heads totally on straight yet. But when we moved, I'll never forget it. We loaded up a U-Haul, and at 52 years old, I never thought I'd have to load a U-Haul again, and because no company was paying for it, I was doing it on my own. And we were broke. You can't be in court and have two homes for that long, and that's another long story. But anyway, we got there, and I heard this announcer from right down the street, the football stadium, Fitzpatrick Football Stadium, and my kids, I love sports, but we couldn't go to athletic or community events in Orono because it was just too hard. So I said, well, let's try it here. We can start something new and I only got to see him for a day and a half a week for almost 5 years, but I wanted quality time. Everybody thinks about that, but we never find it. So I took the kids to this first football game, and we were having a great time, and halftime, Jonah says, hey, Dad, can I go to the snack bar? And I flinched, because you got to know, before that, we never let our kids go anywhere alone. And all of a sudden, it hit me, he can go. This simple act, he can go to the snack bar by himself. He was 13 years old. I shouldn't have had to protect my 13-year-old. But that's the world that we have lived in. And it hit me. Well, he can go. Nobody knows who he is. So I gave him $20, and I go, man, I'll never see that $20 again. So he goes to the snack bar, and Nicole and I are watching the cheerleaders. And all the football moms are around us. It was Portland High against South Portland. It's a big game. I'm sure Arlington plays York or somebody in the, So I don't know what the other towns are, but so anyway. She looks up at me, I'm having a great time, and then she looks up at me and says, Dad, sometimes I hate being transgender. And, man, all those football moms around me, man, all of a sudden, boom, I could feel it, and they're just ear and moving in, and I knew what to follow wasn't going to be good, because Nicole had said that before. It's not the fact that she hates who she is, it's society. And I go, sweetie, why do you say that? Remember, she's 13. And she goes, Dad, I went to a PRISM meeting. It's an LGBT group in Portland. And we saw this movie about a transgender girl that was murdered. And she says to me, Dad, you know that transgender people are raped and murdered every day. It's so hard to relive this story. And I picked up my baby, and I said, your mother says I have to tell you the truth, because in my family we don't tell the truth. You just tell them it's going to be okay, and you go on. I will always love you, and I will always always try to be there for you. And if I can't be there, I know police officers in every county in almost every state in New England that you can call. They will be there for you. But sweetie, the world is not always a safe place, and you have to be smarter. Promise me you'll never go anywhere alone. Promise me whenever you feel unsafe that you will call me. Right about then, Jonas shows up with a hot dog and a hamburger, some half-eaten fries, cotton candy, and a soda. I go, did you get anything for your sister? He goes, she didn't say she wanted anything. Yeah. So he gave me, I don't know, a quarter and one crumpled up dollar. It is Maine. Things are cheaper there than Massachusetts, by the way. So the kids started watching the game. And now I'm not at a game anymore. I'm in one of those nightmares that my wife and I had. And I look at the corner of my eye, and there's 7 football moms just bawling. They're just crying. And this one woman reaches out and takes my hand and says, how can we help? I said, I don't know. I said, but I got to do something. I've got to do something to help my baby. And I don't know what to do. That was 2009. I know what to do now, and that's why we're here, and that's why we have this book. And if I could do this full time, I'd tell this story to every state in the union. Because everybody in this room, you're here, so thank you so much, because we all have to do something. We all have to reach out and say hi to somebody that we don't know or that we fear. It doesn't have to be an LGBT person. It could be just your neighbor that you know voted for Trump. Okay, so I'm a very respectful person. I apologize because he is our president, so I will refer to him as the President Trump. So I want to end with this little story that I wrote the other night, and I'm going to turn it over to my baby. She really likes when I call her that. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Last week, Nicole and I were trying to get home from Atlanta, and we were rerouted to Charlotte, North Carolina. The minute we arrived, I could see a difference in her attitude and her behavior. My beautiful and confident child, who had a great time telling her story in Georgia, started to shut down. Being transgender in North Carolina placed fear in my child's mind. She was well aware that North Carolina does not honor the same rights and privileges as our home state of Maine. In Maine, everyone gets to be who they need to be in full equality. The state of Maine has protections since 2005, but since that time, there have been a number of attacks, even in Maine, to roll back equality. So much of that time has been wasted energy that goes into destroying and disrupting people's lives. The LGBT community is not a threat to society. They are hardworking, productive, and loyal and proud Americans. These battles continue to crop up because of unfounded fears and a lack of knowledge. We do not have to make America great again. We have amazing people from all over the world that come here to learn and grow and prosper. Many of these people have suffered unimaginable hardships that make them stronger, stronger than many of the people who fear them. They bring new ideas and cultural experience that will make America even stronger. Every 4th of July, I proudly place the American flag outside our home to honor our nation and the people that have sacrificed for our nation. People like my cousin, Joseph Maines, who I've never met. He was killed in the Korean War. My Uncle Bob, who was shot down in Holland, World War II. He was rescued by the Dutch resistance, and he made it home safely. He was my hero. He helped me become the man I am today, who loves his country
and will serve to protect what America stands for. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Last week, because of the snowstorm, when we were trapped in Charleston, North Carolina, and Nicole asked me, why did Trump appoint so many bad people? I reminded her to be respectful that it was President Trump. She didn't like that a whole lot. She goes, I'm not so sure. It's deeper than that. This summer, when I was walking door to door canvassing for Equality Maine, I noticed something. Almost all the houses that were flying American flags were vocally angry and against the LGBT community. After a couple weeks of verbal abuse, I was afraid to approach houses that flew the flag. I looked around that airport and I saw happy people walking. I saw the Chick-fil-A, so did Nicole. I saw a man wearing a great Make America Great t-shirt and another wearing a hat with a Confederate flag. Nicole was angry. I said it's okay to be angry and sad, but we cannot let it consume our lives. We have to do more. We need to use our voices to change this. We have to help people understand that when we see the Confederate flag or Chick-fil-A, we do not flinch or get so angry that we can't get our point across. Soon, Nicole and I are going to Arlington, Massachusetts. We are speaking in their beautiful old courthouse. Pretty old, pretty beautiful. They are welcoming us in their community, and I wish we felt as welcome in North Carolina and Indiana. I wish I was welcome in the rest of Middle America because I tell them they have nothing to fear. I would not want Nicole to attend these meetings. It might not be safe. They're going to ask some hard questions that I don't want my 19-year-old to hear, even though she thinks she can. I have no problem answering the hard questions. I've had to answer them myself. I've had to dig deep into my heart and soul and ask myself why I was afraid to support my own child. I'm not afraid anymore. America doesn't have to be afraid, and I'm willing to help them get to the place where they can truly embrace all human beings and true equality. And the first step to that is for them maybe to read our book, but when it's safe, to meet not just Nicole, but every LGBT kid in America that has the strength and the courage and the family to support them. So I see a lot of young people in the top row there. You guys can do things that I can't do. You're going to change the world. My generation has obviously failed to do that this last election. So I'm counting on you and Nicole to make America even stronger than it is, because it's still a great nation. And I love to introduce you to my daughter, because she's probably saying, Dad, shut up and get off the stage. Thank you very much.
Can y'all hear me all right? Oh, good. I'm taller than my dad, so. Now there's a lot of you. I want to start out by saying I did bring my phone on stage, not because I'm a technology-addicted teenager, but because I'm a technology-addicted teenager who fell asleep on the couch last night watching True Blood, and I have the bullet points for the outline of the speech on my phone, so. Sorry. So we're here today talking about this journey called Becoming Nicole, but it's not about, just one person or one transgender person. This is the story of, like my dad said, an American family. And this was a journey that affected all of us. And what the book does so beautifully is it describes the journeys of all four of us, and it really shows how we did transform, and not just my very, very literal transformation, but my father's from, ex-NRA guy, Republican, that whole deal into, you know, the man you just watched cry and speak so beautifully about, you know, people who, like he said, he never would have reached out to or never would have, you know, talked to. His transformation was really beautiful. This is my family. The picture you see from us lobbying in DC in 2014 was a picture of us. We went to speak to the Department of Education about how important it was that transgender children be protected in schools across the nation. And the fun fact about that photo was that was taken right before we went into the DC metro station and broke one of the kiosks. Yeah. Another picture up there is of me and my brother Jonas. He is one of my biggest supporters, and he's someone I never had to come out to. In the book, it's described a lot in the beginning, actually, how I struggled with my parents, and especially my father. But there was never a moment where I had to come out to my brother. And maybe that's just because we were identical twins and because, you know, we'd been on the same wavelength since birth. But while I was, you know, having arguments with my father, one of the first sections of the book was when I was voguing in front of the oven door, looking at my reflection, and he wanted me to show him my muscles, which I did not and still do not have. And it just turned into a back and forth argument of show me your muscles and me just saying no. And that was how a lot of our conversations went when I was that age. You're a boy. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I'm not. But my brother is the one I never had to have that conversation with, and I never had to look for understanding from him, because to him, I was just his brother. Then I was just his sister. I was Wyatt, and now I'm Nicole. And of course, you know, now we're both 19. We're both in college. He studies theater and psychology, and me art and women and gender studies. And so many of our conversations now are him trying to psychoanalyze my bad attitude and me trying to explain to him male privilege. I mean, so needless to say, he's not answering my calls right now. Another picture up there is of my father, who is, I mean, as you guys already know, is incredible. But our relationship, when I was younger, I didn't think we would have the kind of relationship that we would have now. I knew he loved me, but I didn't know that, you know, he supported me and that he supported me as Nicole and not as Wyatt. And you know, now I get to travel across the country and speak to him and just hear his incredible side of the story that for such a long time I didn't know, because I was so young and because people really didn't want to involve me in just the nasty battles that were going around with just me using the bathroom. But now I get to travel with my dad, and I get to have this amazing quality time with him that, you know, I never used to. I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but when we were in 6th grade, we had to move 2 hours south away from our old school in Orono, and we had to leave my father behind so he could keep his job. And so there was so much time where, you know, he wasn't living with us, and so many things that he missed. And now it's kind of like, you know, I'm getting a lot of that time back, and we get to do it in such an amazing way where we get to help people, but, you know, also we get to, you know, we were just in, over the past 3 weekends, we were in Atlanta and Baltimore, and actually last weekend we were here because we thought this was then, but it's now. I mean, I said, do you want to do anything while we're here? And he said, no, let's just drive back. Let's just take your mom to a movie. We didn't. We were tired. And then there's my mom, who is beyond incredible. I don't know how many people in the audience have already read Becoming Nicole, but yes. But yeah, But, oh, that's nice. Oh. But for the first half, and you'll know what I'm talking about, for the first half, you can only really root for my mom. I mean, I seem kind of nuts. My dad seems like he just isn't on board and is a jerk. And my brother isn't mentioned a whole lot, so you're just kind of like, all right, go Kelly. I hope she makes it out of here okay. The other ones, I could care less, but... And she is the most amazing mother anyone could have. She knew from when I was first expressing who I felt that I was, she would do extensive Google searches on the most obscure things, like 5-year-old boy with bowl cut likes to put shirt on top of head and dance around like the Little Mermaid. Like really, really specific Google searches, and I'm not quite sure what she was expecting, but she was looking for anything and turning over every rock that she could. And that was 1999, 2000, and there wasn't the information on transgender people that there is today, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. And really, the most that was out there and the most that was being normalized by the media was that they were going to grow up and go into sex work or work on the streets or be homeless. And that was a really, really scary thing for my mom. And so she just decided then and there, whatever is happening out there in the rest of the world, I always want both of my babies to be able to come home and be safe wherever I am. Of course, the only problem with that was my father at home wasn't on board at that point. And so she, did what any sensible person would do, and, she found some literature and just started talking and chipping away at him and tried to do whatever she could to get the gears in his head moving. We were born in upstate New York, my brother and I, and we had this, this cute little farmhouse. And my dad was doing some repairs in the bathroom. And I was there with him. I had this fake little tool belt because they were still trying to press masculinity on me. And so, I was pretending to help my dad, and I was like, oh yes, this is so great. Oh my gosh, this wrench. Yes. And so, of course, my dad was having the time of his life. Because, this was his dream. I was like, here I am with my boy, and we're fixing stuff together and doing manly things. And so we stopped to have, animal crackers and juice. And then I just dropped this bomb on him and say, Daddy, I hate my penis. And of course, then he choked on his animal crackers. And he just didn't know what to do with that kind of information. And so, then he just holds me, and he's, just crying in the bathroom. Of course, where one is, the other twin isn't far behind. So my brother comes in and starts crying too, because other people are crying. And so then we're all three of us are there just crying on the bathroom floor. And my mom walks in and she's like, what? What is this? And so, after my brother and I had gone to bed that night, my parents were talking, and he was like, and my mom said, I've been trying to tell you, and you just haven't been a team player. And so fast forward to when now we're in Maine, and she found some literature. She's Not There by Jennifer Finney Boylan, in case anyone's read it. Yeah, it's really good. And she leaves it on the coffee table for him. Again, just anything to get the gears in his head moving. And he didn't pick it up. So she did the next best thing and left it in the bathroom. Yeah. The whole journey is just kind of just laugh at it. It's just the whole journey's weird. And so she left it in the bathroom, and the book disappeared. But that was the first time my dad really was taking it upon himself to try to understand what I was expressing and trying to communicate to them with a 3-4-year-old's vocabulary of, red, fire truck, I hate my penis and want it to fall off. That was my vocabulary at the time. And, you know, that was all thanks to my mother. And she's just, like I said, the most incredible person and the strongest. And a lot of people ask us, you know, why doesn't she speak? Why doesn't she come and, you know, share her side of the story from, she's just so, she's really introverted. And, you know, this whole thing, you know, especially with the book, was very, she didn't want her, you know, her family's personal everything really to be out in 200-something pages on, you know, in Target and Barnes and Noble. But she understood how important this was for families everywhere. She knew how important it was that my dad got on board, and she knew how important it was that other parents got on board. And so she's just freaking incredible like that. There's no other way to describe her. Yeah, clap for my mom. I mean, she's just such an amazing woman, an artist. Like I said, I'm an art major, and you can see a couple of her paintings. She does these incredible oil paintings, and you know, no one's ever gonna see them just because she's such an introvert. But my friends will come over to our house, and we have these huge canvases in our house where she just has these amazing masterpieces, and they're like, what is this? And I was like, my mom is amazing. Kind of like, how dare you be surprised? So, earliest memories, yeah. I just, from as long as I can remember, I always recognized myself as a girl. About the same age my brother was realizing, and you know, most cisgender people sort of realize, you know, okay, everything checks out. I like playing with, you know, trucks and action figures. I was realizing I didn't like all of those things. And I was realizing that I was more attracted to Barbies and girl toys and all of the things I wasn't supposed to like. And so, you know, every Halloween I would beg my parents, you know, just, I want to be a witch, or I want to be a princess or a mermaid. Any sort of way where I could just be able to express myself as a girl and fit into the identity that I saw myself in. When we would play dress up, my brother was always, like, does that play? Yes, it does, yes. 3 minutes where I don't have to talk, yeah. There's a God, he's looking out for me. Any minute that we got to play dress up, my brother, you know, he would be Peter Pan, I would want to be Wendy, or he would, you know, be the Tin Man, and I would be Dorothy. Anything where I could just be who I saw myself as. Let's see if that plays.
Hi, Roy. What you doing?
I don't know who told me those colors went together, but looks like I was having fun at the time. So I knew from, you know, the same point that my brother did that not everything checked out the way that, you know, his was. And that's the problem that so many people seem to be sort of, you know, juggling, is how old is old enough to know you're transgender, or know that there's a disconnect. I was reading on Facebook the comment section of just an article we were mentioned in, because that's what I do when I'm bored. I like to see what mean people say and laugh at it. There was this one person, and you know, this is the argument a lot of folks have, that, you know, he said, kids in high school don't know what they want to be when they grow up. How could they possibly know what sex they are? And I'm, you know, to that I just sort of say, well, sort of that's kind of like the first thing you know, actually. Like, you know, from the minute you're born, it's, you know, you're in a pink blanket, your brother's in a blue blanket. This is what you play with, this is what your sister plays with. gender is the first thing that people are confronted with. And, you know, from that, it's the first thing where you're able to sort of be like, okay, awesome. This is how I identify. This is all good. At that point, when you know what you are also old enough to know what you aren't. And I think that's the credit that we aren't giving kids. They're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Right? I mean, so sort of before we just move on and keep diving into stuff, I thought in this comment, the guy mentioned, can they possibly know what sex they are? We're not talking about sex here. We're talking about gender identities, and those are two completely different things. So gender identity is at the core of a person's being. It's where they feel in themselves. Are they male? Are they female? It's a spectrum. Are they male? Are they female? Are they something in between? The way I sort of think of it is we have placed upon people in our society a gender binary, which I'm sure you're all familiar with via the bathrooms, male and female. But especially in fashion, one size fits all does not work for 7 billion people on a planet. So why would it work for identity of 7 billion people? Why should they all be able to narrowly fit into two very specifically shaped boxes? I just think we're kind of setting a lot of people up to fail there. Gender identity can vary. Everybody has a different identity. Everybody has a different gender identity. And that goes with gender expression, how you choose to express your gender. Today, I am expressing myself rather feminine. I'm in heels and a dress. Yesterday, I was in sweatpants and sneakers. That was my gender expression, how I'm choosing to express myself, how I'm choosing to dress. Let's see. Oh, nope. And then sex is what you're assigned at birth. Male, female. Although if we want to be really technical, there's also intersex, and there's technically 5 sexes, but, you know, that's a whole women in gender studies class, so I'll leave that out. Typical gender development, as, you know, scientists like to say, is it happens about the age of 3 or 4. So, okay, there we are. We know kids are understanding what they're feeling, kind of like checking it out. But they don't have a complete sense of gender permanence. And for a lot of trans kids, they think, you know, if I wish hard enough, I'll wake up one day and I'll be different. If I just want it, if I want it enough, you know, the universe will sort of work in my favor. And social experiences are supposedly supposed to solidify that sort of sense of gender permanence. And I think, you know, that right there is where I sort of question things, because I was in Boy Scouts and that did not stick at all. I specifically remember this one trip we took to the weather station. We were all lined up there in our little blue jeans and ugly orange bright t-shirts, and we were all lined up in front of the green screen taking pictures. And you know, we have our arms around each other, you know, boys will be boys. And I'm on the end. I have my arm on one of my friend's shoulders and my hips all the way out. Manly. So gender permanence did not solidify with social experiences. But you know, that brings us to school and social experiences. And a lot of us in school deal with bullying, especially trans kids. When my father, you know, first started being able to sort of get on board, and my parents were really understanding what living as a boy was doing to me, we decided to work with our school up in Orono, and we wanted to make my transition public. And so we worked with the school and we decided on a gradual transition. So we decided we'd spread my transition out over the course of elementary school for 5 years, starting with, wearing pink, long hair. In 3rd grade, we used everyone had like a little single stall bathroom connected to the classroom. And there was a male one and a female one. They let me use the female bathroom. In 4th grade, I started sort of playing around with different names because Wyatt wasn't especially feminine. And of course, I couldn't really choose one because I think a lot of my trans friends, they sort of like to do like the opposite version of their name. So like Steven will be Stephanie, or like Nick will be Nicole. But I don't look like a Whitney or a Winona. So I just went with Nicole based off of a TV show, because that was sort of like the resources that I had at that time. We did an ABC special where everyone wanted to know, how did you pick Nicole? It's the title of your book. And I was like, yeah, that show Zoe 101 with like Britney Spears' little sister? Yeah, there was like a character on that named Nicole and I liked her, so that's why I picked it. Sorry. What's Jamie Lynn doing now? Do we know? Wasn't she in like an ATV accident? Oh, bless her heart. So we start making this transition public. And what was great about the gradual transition was that everyone was cooperating and communicating. If somebody had a question, we could all address it together. And, none of the students were, sort of like shocked by me, just kind of waltzing in one day in a full, dress, heels, and pearls, and, sort of letting everyone process that. Everyone was eased into it with me, and if we had questions, we could all address it together. Of course, there was bullies, as there always are in high school, and that sort of cues this tree we're displaying so beautifully. I don't know if you guys can see it because there's a glare from my angle, so if you guys can't see it, just let me know, and I'll adjust the brightness. But we have up there bullying, harassment, discrimination, anxiety, low self-esteem, depression, absenteeism, post-traumatic stress, fear, self-harm, suicidal thinking, loss of friends. I experienced most, if not all, of this stuff on that tree, and that's thanks to a little friend called bullying, because kids can be really mean. But that's also, bullying stems from things that people don't understand, and we see that in Congress. But that's because there was no normalization of transgender issues. This isn't something that's talked about in schools, at least not until high school. And that's the issue. My father and I went to speak to a family living class, and there was little clicker questions. It was a college course. And there was a little poll that they did before the speech, and they said, what grade do you think that transgender issues should be taught? And most of the answers were college, if not never. Well, that's like a recipe for bullying. I mean, people need to be able to understand the issues so they know, they're not so different. Every day on the bus, I would sit at the back of the bus, and there was this girl. Her name was Sharia, calling her out. And she called me it on the bus every day. Fortunately, she was a 4th grader, and I had a 5th grade friend. I was in 3rd grade, so I sort of trumped that. But see, you can't say trumped anymore. God. But I had to stop taking the bus, and my parents just had to, just start driving us to school because it was just too much. I mean, I don't know if you guys sort of understand, but being called it every day is not exactly affirming of your humanity. And that brings us back to that tree. So all during this transition, we wanted to sort of know when do you start medical treatment? Because that's something that's so important for transgender people, medical treatment. Because we saw, we saw here a beautiful person, and my brother. I mean, but that's thanks to medical treatment, because if not, I would look exactly like him. I'm sure I would get a lot of girls, but I mean, he has wide shoulders. But that's thanks to medical treatment, and because my parents were able to get on board early enough that they were even open to thinking about that sort of thing. And that's the issue that so many people don't really understand. You know, there was an interview on, I think it was The View a while ago, I think it was like 2007, and one of the women on The View was saying, you know, if my son wants to wear a dress when he gets out of the house, that's totally fine, but while you're living under my roof, this is what you wear, this is what your sister wears. And that's the problem. Because once, especially for male to female people like myself, once testosterone really starts like working its grubby little paws, it's really, really hard and really, really expensive to sort of, you know, kind of try to reverse that. And so, especially with transgender kids, they're on such a timer to get their parental units on board, just so I didn't have to grow up looking like my brother. When I went on, the first stage is hormone blockers. I think there's a little bullet point. The first stage was hormone blockers, and that was to stop the testosterone from taking away this lovely, soft, sheer skin that you see before you. But that's the first stage, and after I went on hormone blockers, it was terrifying to watch my brother. I really felt like I narrowly dodged a bullet, because as soon as I started that, he started, you know, getting taller, getting wider, more defined jaw, everything for, you know, that a woman is supposed to look like, which is complete nonsense, but everything that a woman is traditionally supposed to look like is the opposite of what men look like. You're supposed to be smaller, everything, and then my brother just kept getting bigger, and I was like, oh my God, I dodged that. And that's the issue that we see a lot of people talking about. We see a lot of people saying, oh, you know, well, I don't want someone who looks like a man in a dress, you know, be in my bathroom. And I'm like, well, A, pee at home if you got a problem. Second of all, that's thanks to freaking medical, actually the lack thereof medical treatment. Because people, when they aren't given that, they don't get to adhere to beauty standards that we sort of have been pushing on transgender people in a beautiful little term called passing, which is complete nonsense. Passing is the idea that a transgender person would sort of be able to assimilate to a cisgender society by looking like the gender they're supposed to or whatever. And that's nonsense. Because why do people need to look a certain way? That's just beauty standards making things worse again. But then came cross-hormone therapy and estrogen, which I started when I was in about high school. And, you know, that was weird. I got taller, and I already had like all the high shoes, so I was just, you know, if my prom date wants to be taller than me, he can wear heels, because I only got a couple things in this life, and one of them are tall shoes, and I'm gonna hold on to that. But that was, and there was this, her name slips me. There was a transgender girl on Facebook and social media, but there was a little video, if anyone saw it, of her getting her first package of estrogen in the mail. And just the look of joy on that girl's face. I mean, it's amazing just knowing that you get to identify and your body and your mind will finally get to match is incredible to so many kids out there, but it's something that they don't get if their parents don't get it. And there comes the issue with, especially with bullying and with medical treatment, is that the knowledge and the conversations need to be out there and being had. So people like my father, you know, they have the information ahead of time. so that they're able to work with their child and they're able to, work with transgender people, and it's not such a foreign concept. So many people don't take the time to understand transgender issues until it has literally quite fallen into their lap, like my father. I mean, he didn't think for a second that he was going to have a transgender child, and so he didn't bother trying to find information about transgender children. And, then he was kind of a little late on that. And that's the issue. The information needs to be out there, and people need to be having the conversations and understanding these issues ahead of time so that the transgender children are not waiting on anybody to catch up to them, because that's not fair. And I know life isn't fair, but that should be. And then came sex reassignment surgery, which everyone is sort of like, it's weird because, you meet someone new and you're talking about trans issues and they say, oh my gosh, have you had the surgery? I'm like, you can, what? What? Okay, that's a weird thing to ask somebody, but yes. I don't know why people think it's like a big, ooh. I mean, you all know what I'm talking about. You think of transgender issues, you think of what? Bathrooms and people going under the knife. I'm like, that is not what we should be associating with this entire group of people, because the important thing to remember about surgery and the important thing to remember about the transgender community is that not everyone is seeking surgery. And so you don't always need to ask people if they've had the surgery. I mean, that'd be weird. Me asking you, do you still have all the parts you're born with? Everything's still intact? Can I see it? Do you have a picture? No. What? So we started hormone blockers around 5th, 6th grade. And so there's a picture, actually I think that's a picture of me in 3rd grade, but I didn't really change that much. 5th grade was, I finally got to start using, in the course of our gradual transition, the multiple stall bathroom to prepare us for middle school. And I got to wear skirts, get my ears pierced, and finally start using my new legal name, Nicole. And that was incredible and liberating, and everyone was on board and happy and cooperating, and I got to sort of experience that girls go into the bathroom culture where you go in to share and talk and sometimes use the bathroom. We all go in packs, and in Harry Potter we saw Hermione Granger went in alone and she got attacked by a troll. We go in packs. Well, yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is I'm basically Hermione Granger because that happened to me. What we hadn't really sort of thought about when we started the gradual transition is what do we want to do for students who move to our school district maybe halfway through the transition. And I guess we just sort of thought we'd cross that road when we got there, and we got there. When I was in 5th grade and everything was going swimmingly, a new student came to my class, and his grandfather was part of a special interest Christian right group who I guess didn't really think that my using the bathroom was holy. I mean, so, to make a political statement, first they threatened the school because they thought I was somehow infringing on other people's rights. And so they first threatened the school with a lawsuit. And then they used this grandson as, a means of making a political statement by having him bully me, harass me, and finally follow me into the bathroom one day. And that comes from, Hermione Granger. That's the lesson there. Don't go to the bathroom alone, because then a boy follows you into the bathroom and makes a political statement. Or there's a troll. Or both. And so he goes into the bathroom, and I turn around and there he is. He's significantly taller than me, and I'm like, I probably can't fight this kid. And he looks me at the eye and he says, my grandpappy says we don't have to have any faggots in our school. And of course, I was in 5th grade, and so I had no idea what was happening. But that was the point where all of that hard work we'd, fought for had started coming undone, because the school stopped working with us at that point. They figured if the issue lied in Nicole using the girls' bathroom, if we take her out of the girls' bathroom, there's no more problem. And so they put me in a separate just for Nicole bathroom and highlighted the fact that, hey, here's this student. This student's different from you, and this student should be separate from you, and isolated me from my friends. So I have no idea what's going on at this point in time. All I sort of knew was I overheard my parents talking, why is Nicole being punished for something she didn't do? And I agreed, and so, in my little rebellious 5th grade way, I decided, you know what, yeah, you're right, and I started using the girls' bathroom again. And all of my friends knew, all the teachers knew, and, they didn't really care, because they were like, yeah, she should be in the girls' bathroom, But then the grandson caught on and made another stunt. And then I was back in the special just for me bathroom, but this time with a bodyguard who was gonna follow me around every day, listen to my conversations, and make sure that I was using the isolation chamber of a bathroom. And that went on all the way through 6th grade. And at that point, the whole time we'd been working with the school and just desperately trying to figure out, what can we do? And we just realized the school could not and would not be reasoned with. And so we had to move. 2 hours south, like I said, to Portland, away from my father so he could keep his job. And for the next 2 years of middle school, my parents had to tell my brother and I, don't tell anyone that you're trans. Don't tell anyone who you are, or we're gonna have to move again. And so up until that point, I had never really experienced really being in the closet, because from 1st grade, I was very, very vocal about who I was. It was part of my introduction. I said, hi, I'm Wyatt. I'm a boy who wants to be a girl, and I like to play with, Barbies. And someone said, okay, cool. I play with trucks. Awesome. So I had never really experienced having to actively hide a part of myself. And so for those next 2 years, I just shut down. I didn't have any friends over. I just went to school, came home. I was like a ghost, that was it. And all during that period, we were in a legal battle with the Orono School District because we'd filed suit against them on the grounds of unlawful discrimination. Because under Title IX and Maine's Human Rights Act, they couldn't legally do what they did. And we lost in Superior Court. But we appealed, and we went all the way to the Maine State Supreme Court. And that was taking a total of 5 years. And I got to attend the hearing with the rest of my family. And for the first time, I got to hear what was being said about me. Because for the first time, I was permitted to sort of hear the conversations and hear the arguments. Because up until that point, any conversation regarding me or my rights had been had behind closed doors between, the adults. And no one had ever really bothered to ask, the children or, the daughters who were supposedly at risk. Of course, I understand now that my parents didn't want me to go to the hearing, didn't want me to go to any of the meetings because what they were saying was terrible. I was referred to as a male student and sort of talked about like I hadn't ever really gone there. Like I wasn't the student that they had seen every day in the halls and was actively participating in extracurriculars and, who they were making out to be not a human, that sort of thing. And it was appalling. And of course, I came to realize at that point that it wasn't the school as a whole that had the issue, but it was the administration. The ones who hadn't seen me every day. And the teachers knew. Like I said, when the teachers saw I was going into the girls' bathroom again, they didn't say anything because they were like, yes, Nicole using this stupid staff bathroom is ridiculous. Why? Because she's not a staff member. I mean, she's not a staff member and she's a girl, so I kind of think those two things should kind of like solve it for you. But you know, what was the administration supposed to do? Because to them, I was just a name on an attendance list. I was an idea. And of course, now I'm an idea that A, might cost them money, and B, I'm an idea that's sort of trying to hit them with this transgender thing. Because we'd never talked about it. That wasn't something that schools were informed and educated about. And it goes back to that issue of parents and students, bullies, children, schools. These are issues that need to be talked about so crap like this doesn't happen. I mean, and so all during those 5 years, during this court case, it had all sort of come to be normal. Not living with my father came to be normal. Being in a court case with adults debating over whether or not I counted as a woman came to be normal. And being in hiding came to be normal. But in 2011, when I was in 8th grade, a bill similar to HB 2 in North Carolina popped up in Maine. It was called LD 1046. And it was the exact same thing. It was nonsense.
This is a minute report. A roll call is in order. Chair recognizes the representative from Orono, Representative Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose the pending motion and to speak briefly. The proposition in this bill related to unlawful public accommodations and legitimate privacy concerns is not about bathrooms nor locker rooms to me. It is not about pulling threads in an unraveling of the Human Rights Act, and it is not an abstract concept about transgendered people or transgendered person. But it is for me about Cam and for Nicole and others like them. And then there's Nicole. Nicole grew up in Orono. She has a twin brother. Her case is well known to the Human Rights Commission in Maine, and her story was told eloquently by her father in front of the Judiciary Committee at the hearing on this bill. I've had the privilege of getting to know Nicole and her family for years, as they worked in the community of Orono to educate the community and to make sure that when their daughter went to school every day, she could do so like any other kid. Nicole and her family have had to leave Orono, and they now live in a different part of the state where Nicole goes to school every day like any other kid, absolutely afraid that someone might find out that she's transgendered. Because Nicole is stealth. That's the term that this kid had to learn in order to go to school every day to feel normal. And sitting with Nicole just a few weeks ago here at the State House, you might have seen her in the hallway and you wouldn't have known that Nicole is stealth or that she is a transgendered person. I've been lucky to get to know the story of Nicole and her family and learn about how open Nicole is to talking to you or anyone else about her experience. And about how this type of backward step with the Maine Human Rights Act puts in jeopardy her ability to go to school every day and learn, her ability to go to the mall and shop like any other kid, her ability to go with her parents to a show or to the movies and to simply use the bathroom. This bill is unnecessary, and I believe will cause more problems than we even know now. So Emily Kane mentioned in that clip
that some of the people may have seen me in the State House. And that's because after working with the Maine Human Rights Commission and the Women's Union and ACLU and Equality Maine, they were realizing that they weren't making as much ground as they needed to make against this bill. So they said, I think they need to meet Nicole. And so I missed 2 days of school, came out of hiding for the first time in 2 years, and talked to a bunch of really mostly old white men who really didn't want to talk to me. And we talked to every person in that place, in the State House, and it was big. And by the time it came around, we defeated the bill. And we even changed the mind of the co-sponsor of the bill. Thank you. But that's because so many of these people, I don't think, really knew what this bill was about and who it was affecting. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I told myself I was going to mention this at the end of the speech, but I think it's really relevant right now. The federal rollback of transgender protections. It just happened because Mr. Trump, I'm not going to call him our president because our president, let me tell you what, our president would protect everybody, and this is some nonsense. And I have had it. These sort of backwards steps are completely unnecessary. And I think they're happening, especially in places like North Carolina, and these bills are being allowed to persist because people aren't able to put a face to the transgender movement. They haven't just met someone and talked to them. They would know that we are completely ordinary people. It's easier to marginalize a group of people when they're a foreign concept and you're not thinking about who actually this is affecting and you don't really know anybody. When it's just sort of an idea, especially like with the school, when I was just a name on an attendance list, I was a lot weaker than if they actually knew me. And so that brings us back to this court case. It had been going on for 5 years, and by that point, I was a junior in high school. And I was sitting in the cafeteria, or the atrium, at this cute little private school. It was called Waynfleet. I'll talk about it in a second. And I got a text from my mother. I think I was eating waffle fries. And it was just in all caps, it said, "We won the case." And like I said, it'd come to be normal at that point. So of course I was thinking, what case is she talking about? I was like, and this is honest, I swear to God, I thought she was talking about like a sweepstakes or something, like she'd won a suitcase. I was like, super. And then I remembered, oh wait, yeah, I'm in a legal battle. Oh my God, I'm in a legal battle. And then I start screaming and all my friends are sort of looking at me and they're like, what is she going on about now? And then we all celebrated and we talked, and I got up at the announcements that day and I got to tell my high school that, we won, and everyone was just so supportive. But because that's just the kind of place that school was. Waynfleet is a private school in Portland, and after middle school, we weren't quite sure where we wanted to go because so many places weren't exactly ready for transgender students yet. But we were approached by this place, and they said, no, it's okay, we got this. Come here, talk to us. And we did, and it's just this incredible place. And they start out the school year by taking the freshman class, dropping them in the middle of the woods in Maine, and just basically telling us to get along. And I spent that whole trip terrified because they said, oh, you know, it's safe here. You can be out here. You don't have to be stealth anymore. But at that point, after 2 years of not telling anybody who I was, I'd forgotten how to come out because I hadn't had to in so long. And so I just watched as all of my new classmates got in their swimsuits and ran down to the lake together to have a good time, and I was just terrified. And it wasn't until on the way back that we were on the bus, and I was sitting next to this girl I'd sort of gotten to know. Her name was Leah, and she told me, she leaned over and she said, I have something I need to tell you. I said, okay, what? And she said, I'm pansexual. You're not screwing with me, right? I latched onto this girl, and I came out to somebody for the first time in 2 years. And you know what she told me? She was like, oh, cool. But that gave me the confidence to be able to come out to more people at that school. And it just really propelled me through the rest of high school to just have the safe space that I needed to just become Nicole. But that sort of safe place was incredible, and it's because people like Leah and all of my friends from Waynfleet, Lexi, Austin, Bob, Acadia, James, even my brother Jonas, those people gave me a safe place to be able to be myself. And I was able to accept myself as a transgender person. Because for the first time, I wasn't either having to actively hide my transgender status. I wasn't having, parents or the school actively, telling me I'm not okay. And for the first time, I wasn't having the fact that I was trans being shoved down my throat. And I could just exist as a student. And that was so empowering. What else was empowering while middle school, and what really got me through middle school, was I went to this place called Camp Aranutic. Yeah. It's incredible, let me tell you what. It's this camp for transgender students. I mean, not just students, transgender kids, or gender nonconforming kids. Because so many of us don't get to experience summer camp. Because we're too afraid to, go swimming in the lake, or we can't use the bathrooms or sleep in the cabins. And here it's just a place where we really didn't have to worry about that stuff, and we could just for the first time get to be kids at camp. And what else was amazing was that it wasn't like one of those workshops for trans kids where it's like, let's talk about you being trans, and let's talk about how to deal with being trans while we make baskets. They were just like, I don't care, go swim. Do arts and crafts. And if you want to talk about being trans, do it. And it was amazing. I remember in my cabin the first year, talking with a bunch of other trans girls my age who had never gotten to really meet before. And we just got to share our experiences, and they were all alarmingly the same, but different. Because we all went through these sort of similar but different things. And let me tell you, they mostly revolved around bathrooms. Because that's just the nonsense we're dealing with right now. But it was so incredible. And I actually just got an email from the director of the camp, Nick Tice, she's incredible. And they were actually asking me, hey, do you want to be a counselor at the camp this year? And I was like, yes. Of course I couldn't do it because I already had prior summer commitments, but I was like, next time, yes, because that camp is just so incredible. And I remember the counselors, how amazing they were. And not all the counselors were trans. Some of them were, but some of them were just do-gooding cisgender allies who just wanted to help trans kids. And they were incredible. And just having adults who supported you was so important to all of us. And now I've graduated that camp and I don't go there anymore. But sometimes we still go down to the Philly Trans Conference, and if anyone's ever been to the Philadelphia Trans Conference, you may have seen a bunch of rowdy transgender kids running around and going to the Philadelphia market. That's my crew. Sorry. They're incredible. And just having that community was so important and so new to all of us. And I will never be able to say thank you to Nick enough, because that is, and everyone at Camp Aranudik, it's a really incredible and special place. And so I guess that brings us to today. I have graduated high school. I am no longer a camper. I'm a college student, terrified, and doing my best. But we've been on this incredible journey, my family and I. And it's because people have just come out to help us every step of the way. We were able to win the court case because people just were there at the right time, willing to do the right thing, because that had never been done before. It had never gone to the courts at that level before. And now, of course, there's the Gavin Grimm case going to the the federal Supreme Court. And I got there. And it's the same issues, bathrooms. And I hope so badly that they will understand that bathrooms are not an issue that we should be talking about. We were talking to our attorneys a while ago, and one of them just came out and said it. They said, if this was an issue about a student of a different religion or of a different race, we would not be having this bathroom conversation. Why? Because we've already had those conversations, and people decided that it was stupid. And here we are. But why are we talking about bathrooms? Well, because that's the issue that we've decided to, for some reason, staple to the back of the transgender community. But in reality, these issues span over far more than just bathrooms. It is about every little thing that is gendered in our society. And like I mentioned earlier, since we're in a binary society, that's everything. It's the first thing you learn when you come out. This is boys, this is girls. There cannot be any in between. And therein lies the problem. People need to be educated about these issues. We need to be talking about this to each other and with our parents and with our grandparents and with our children and our teachers and our lawmakers and our president. Oh, I said it. Oh. Sorry. God, I miss Obama. But these conversations are now becoming normal, and they're becoming more popular and more frequent. The picture up there is of me with some of the other participants of the trans list. They're incredible. I love them so much. And it's this incredible stories actually. It's a documentary featuring 11 different transgender and gender nonconforming people sharing their identities and sharing their stories. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to be shared more often. Because when we talk about people's experiences, identities, and stories, and have conversations with each other as humans, like I said, we're less foreign a concept, and we're harder to marginalize, because you understand that we're real people, and these are real humans, Americans, citizens, people. So when I started going to college, these conversations weren't being had everywhere. And I had to pick and choose really carefully where I would apply to college. because we realized that not everywhere was going to allow transgender students to have access to the right dormitories or the right facilities, and I did not need 4 years of that. Actually 5 years, because I'm an art major. Yeah? Take a studio class. It's hellish. Of course, I ended up just going to the University of Maine in Orono, ironically, but all of my applications stayed in New England because it was so hard to just find accepting colleges, especially, middle America, down south. And that's where we need to be having these conversations. Not that I'm not enjoying talking to all of you, you're all lovely. But we need to be having these conversations with the people who aren't on board. We can't keep preaching to the choir. We need to have the conversations where people really don't get it and introduce ourselves to people. And I mean, that's where y'all come in. Have conversations, especially at Thanksgiving with your relatives who may or may not get it. Have those conversations with your families, with your neighbors, with people you meet at the coffee shop. These issues need to be normalized so that people are more prepared to tackle transgender issues, like my father really wasn't at first. Those are just examples of housing options. It was rough to find one. I have an incredible roommate, by the way, just speaking of housing. Her name is Sarah. I love her. She's incredible. My school was kind of like, so do you want a roommate? And I was like, yeah. And she was incredible. When I came out to her, she didn't blink an eyelash. She was also from upstate New York, which is where we were born, so that was a cute little thing. A quick little story about Sarah is we were talking about, as girls do, our body insecurities. And I was like, yeah, I'm really self-conscious about my Adam's apple sometimes. She was like, I've never noticed that until now. And I was like, until now? Sarah. I love her, though. She's incredible. I love telling that joke and just making her uncomfortable. And then there is the bathroom bills and the federal rollback protections and just more nonsense. And it's so important now that these conversations are being had because the people in power don't get it. And they need to. Because it's hard enough when somebody's parents don't get it. We need schools, communities, countries, and families. All of those things working together is what works to make a safe environment. If I was supported at home, but not at school, like I'm a little nervous about the Department of Education right now. Yeah. Being supported at home is great, but most kids go to school, 5 days a week from 8 to 3, and if you spend all of that time being told that you're wrong and that you're not okay, how are you supposed to believe otherwise? We need all of these places within our communities to be working together to give kids the space, like Wayne Fleet gave me, to be able to just deal with their own stuff and be able to accept themselves, because that is hard enough. So what can you guys do? I already said you guys can have these conversations, talk to your families and to your lawmakers and senators, and make sure these are issues that are being talked about. But it's also the little stuff. Letting people know that you're a safe place. Ask someone their preferred name or their preferred gender pronouns because it might not be obvious at first. Be sensitive and understanding, and don't speak only in the binary. If people are gender fluid, the singular they is actually a word. and we can use it. So don't be afraid to use it. Yeah. It's the little things. It's the little things. Just the most important thing you guys can do is just let people know that you're a safe place and that you're someone who is there to listen, there to talk, and there to support. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Oh, thank you.
I teared up multiple times. So now we'll probably do Q&A for about 15 minutes. There's a mic over here, so if you would like to ask a question, please line up. Not all at once.
Yeah. Is it on? Is that microphone on? Yes. To the rescue! Oh, let's do it. Yes! There you go.
Is it?
Oh, is it working?
Yeah. Hello?
Well, either way, we have that microphone now.
Okay.
I'll just stay out here.
Let's just hang out.
Let's
yeah.
just hang. Let's be casual.
Well, first of all, you rule. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually transitioned in this town around the time you were born.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm glad you're speaking about the egregiousness of having to go stealth, because I had to go stealth for about a decade in order to find employment. But the silver lining was I joined a Riot Girl band. So that's how I dealt with that. My question for you is, while you were living in stealth, what were your creative outlets? I imagine visual arts, drawing, painting.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So what were my creative outlets? Well, like I said, I'm an art major. And people ask me a lot, oh, what's your medium? Because my mom does oil painting. And the way I sort of think of it is I was doodling in my notebooks with a number 2 pencil for 12 years. So that's my medium. Number 2 pencils on lined paper. I can make you art. But around 7th grade, when I went stealth, I created this kind of fantasy world for myself. I was really into, Japanese anime and manga, and so I created one for myself. And it had nothing to do with being transgender, which was maybe what I needed at that time. It was just about 5 high school students who are trained to be angels and fight demons, and it's a kind of weird twist on biblical mythology, and it was fun. But I still draw that, and I still just create original characters. I'm actually doing something with it for my digital art class. And so it's just been an outlet that I've gotten to use and had the privilege to use for 14 years. No, not 14. 8. Multiple years. Yes. Awesome. Is that one working? Just come up. It's okay. Just come up. Have a powwow with me.
I will. Dad, thank you so very, very much. And the only thing I would really want to make sure you encourage that I don't give a darn what bathroom you use as long as you're putting the seat down. That's all I care.
Yes. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the real tea. Are you ready for this? My mother is, she's the rock in the house. And so she gets to have her own bathroom. I share a bathroom with my father and my brother. I also, when I was living there, was in charge of cleaning the bathroom. Well, after I had surgery, what people neglected to tell me was how hard it was to relearn how to use the bathroom. And after that point, I sat my brother and my father down, and I told them, you have absolutely no excuse, because you have 100% more control. And this is nonsense.
And the last question I have is, has Jonas got over the fact that you're the better athlete?
Neither of us are athletes anymore, so it doesn't matter. I don't run, and he doesn't do lacrosse anymore. He's a theater major, and I'm an artist, and so we both sit and do nothing. So
excited about this. All right, so I just recently got to kind of live how I wanted to live. And it was awesome reading the book and everything you went through. And I've been pushing my parents, be like, you should really read this book. And my mom's like, I don't know. I said, you should. My question for you is, will you be my friend? Because reading your book, you can ask my husband. I was like being a brat about it. I was like, you have to read this, you have to read this, you have to read this. Like, she's going through what I went through, but just the opposite gender. So yeah, will you be my friend?
yes. Wait, what's your name? AJ? AJ? Okay. Gotcha. Hello.
Hi, I'm so sorry I came really late, so I only heard the last little bit. I'm a preschool teacher, and I wonder if you have any advice for those of us working with young children, because everything I've heard is that gender identity really gets solidified kind of during the preschool years, and someone mentioned that you had talked about that earlier in the talk. Do you have any advice for us preschool teachers? Because we spend a lot of time in the classroom talking about you're a boy, you're a girl, you're he, she, he, and so anyways, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Of course. I think the most important thing you can do is, like you said, I did talk about this a little bit earlier, but it's really just not enforcing as much the binary and not really like telling a kid like, hey, if you're feeling a little like, if you want to play with girl toys, you can play with girl toys, because toys aren't for boys or for girls. They're just toys. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
I've had boys that wanted to wear tutus, and I've had girls that wanted to wear boys' underwear, and that was totally cool. Yeah, I was just saying I have had, boys that want to put on dresses and tutus, and I've had girls that wanted to wear Batman underwear and boys' clothes, and that was totally cool. But I still think that we spend a lot of time talking about whether you're a boy or a girl. And I think in a preschool classroom, it's hard to avoid that, because you're also teaching kids at the same time about gender identity and, and things like pronouns, like he and she. So I guess what I'm getting from you is just to have an open mind and to be open about that.
I just want to add that it's not just the kids. Really, maybe your bigger and better challenge is to start educating their parents. And because some of them are going to be afraid, and some of them are going to not even know how to move forward. When we first started our journey, Lisa Earhart, who's one of the stars of the book, was their counselor, went out of her way to learn about transgender children and helped advise our family. And, she was one of the first. So you're going to notice it going on at school, but they may be avoiding it at home. And you've got to find a way to do that in a sensitive and not get in trouble either. It's a really balancing act. Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing, sorry, there are a bunch of children's books that are coming out. I Am Jazz by the Jennings is incredible. I'm gonna plug that. It's an amazing book for kids. It's really there are a lot of books now for children about like transgender issues, and it's really good to like sort of just have those in the classroom and like. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a 58-year-old white male of a transgender daughter, so I really wanted to thank Wayne for what you're doing, and I agree. It's probably more you and I educating the world than the younger ones. I really want to thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that's nice. Hello.
You talked about like the dark years of middle school and then how high school was such a better experience for you. I teach middle school and I teach in an all-boys school. So what I'm wondering is anything that was like particularly really great that the school did, or something that was particularly like that could help me and any teachers here, besides preschool age, but more like, you know, those middle school years.
So an amazing thing that Waynefleet did was it's really like the fact that they didn't do anything that was more meaningful. It's that they really, I mean, of course they asked, you know, what can we do? Is there anything like that you need? The school actually had recently gotten gender neutral bathrooms everywhere, just so that, you know, there wasn't like any hot fuss or hassle or anything. And it's just like, go pee, do whatever you want. And it was incredible when we first went to the school, and they did it a lot nicer than I'm about to say it, but they basically said, hey, so we have 2 transgender kids coming to our school. There was one more in my grade, I love him. And they basically said, we have 2 transgender kids coming to our school, and if that's a problem, there are other schools. And I mean, I'm sort of reading in between the lines right there, but that's just the sort of attitude that Waynefleet had about it, and they had open conversations with their students, and there were so many teachers there that were available to just go talk to, and I think that was really the most important thing, just knowing that there were adults there who were willing and open to talk to us. So, yeah, thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Isaac. I'm a transgender 7th grader. I'm kind of where you were talking about in the middle school place. I'm a transgender boy, and I have a few things. It's really an honor to meet you, and I was wondering, is there any specific way you kind of convinced your parents that hormones at a younger age would be not detrimental to your health? And also, do you think I could hop on that friend train with you and that other guy?
Well, to answer the second question, first, yes. And then the other thing was there wasn't really anything I did to really convince my parents. It was really like we were talking about mostly my mom. But it's really just like having, really the ways that she was doing it was having the resources and literature available and just really trying to stress to them, like, this does more good than, actually it didn't do any harm, actually. My dad was just giving a speech a while ago, and someone in the audience for Q&A came up to him and asked, actually, do you want to tell this story? That you tell it better than I do.
Anybody know where the University of Maine Fort Kent is? It's right on the Canadian border. It's way up there. I'm responsible for all 7 state universities. And I was up there on business, and they asked me, the GSTA now, he asked me if I would do a public forum while I was there. So I said, yeah, I'm there, I might as well. And about 60 people from the community showed up, and I was sitting next to the president of the university, and this old Frenchman, he barely, you know, it's amazing. I took French. I was in love with my French teacher. Another story. But anyway, he's kind of speaking French and English, and he says, I understood him well enough to know that he was asking me if I felt like I was playing God with my daughter, giving her hormones, and that she will never be able to have children.
So the president right next to me, he's all embarrassed, and he goes, oh my God. And the crowd was pretty supportive, so I answered him with this answer. I said, if my child had leukemia and there was a drug or treatment that would save her life, I would use that, and that's what I did for my daughter. And he came up after, yeah. So this Frenchman about your size comes up to me after and shakes my hand and says, you're a good person, God loves you. So, you never know. So, again, don't give up on your parents. Find the literature, find a counselor at school, somebody that they respect in your community that can help you with your journey, and you'll get there. Yeah?
Sorry, I have one more question. Sorry. What would you really do if you had like a close friend who, close friend, my only friend, who you've known for like all your life for 8 years, and they say they'll still be your friend, but they refuse to call you by your name and pronouns, and you've known them for 8 years, and when I say only friend, I don't mean I have other acquaintances, I mean I have no friends except one person. And I'm saying her name because she's not here, Susie, and if you have one friend, she said the only way she'll be your friend is if she doesn't call you by those pronouns. What should you do?
Well, Susie, it's so important to, as friends, the most important thing you can do as a friend is, I'm sure, as you know, is support each other and respect pronouns and respect what they do and really just support. And I think what the best thing you can do is really stress to Susie, this is who I am. And I am the same person you were friends with before. And if you would like to be friends with me still, I would love that. I would love nothing more than that. But the most important thing that you can do is not put your identity on hold or put your life on hold for other people, because you got to look out for number one, and I think that's you. And I'm sure Susie is a wonderful person, and I'm sure Susie I'm sure she'll come around. I think you just really need to stress to Susie, like, hey, this is who I am. And I'm not going to change that for anybody.
I just want to add that just the fact that your age, that you stepped up here and said what you said, you're an amazing kid. You're going to have more friends than you ever knew, and you got so many friends right here.
One more? Okay. Come to me.
Hi, I'm a male to female transsexual. I came out to in 1988, and it was early days. And first I got to say, your family and you are incredible. I'm 55 and my father is 96, and it took a while for him to accept me, but he finally did. And for a long time I didn't see him or my brothers, and I don't really have any questions, but I just want to say that I came out to my grade school 30 years later, and they were accepting, and I think once you get out of the school issues, it becomes a lot easier. Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm so happy that your father came around. I mean, if there's a testament to don't give up on your parents, I mean, you're incredible. And yeah, clap. Yes. Are you a hug person? No. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. And I completely agree. Like, after school, it gets so much better because you're not dealing with all of that nonsense on top of just like regular school nonsense. And so to say like it gets better, like, does not cut it. Cause like, I mean, yeah, and like now I'm like a stressed out adult and I'm like, I don't know how to adult, but I'm also like not like a trans student who's like, why are people talking about bathrooms all the time? It gets so much better. And I mean, school, even when in an accepting school, there's like just that stuff that really like makes you cringe. I mean, sitting with my friend group was a bunch of like, you know, I mean, we were a bunch of queers, but like there's this text post online that it's like where the media is talking about like, oh well, we don't want to have more than one LGBT person in the cast because that's not realistic, and I'm like, I have not seen a straight person in 3 days. Yeah. But you know, hanging out with like my cisgender friends, they talk about periods a lot. And as the only trans person like in that group, I was just kind of like, yep, that sucks. Geez. But it gets so much better when you're just sort of out of that environment. I totally know what you're talking about. So, yeah.
Yeah, it gets better, life gets better. And just keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, I actually, came out to a distant cousin who was anti-trans, and I called him up. I told him who I was, and I called him up, and we had a long talk, and now he's pro. He's pro-trans, and that was.
That's the kind of work that needs to be done everywhere. And I mean, take a letter, because that's exactly what everybody needs to be working on. So just thank you so much. You made the world a little better. Thank you so much. Yeah. Awesome. Well, my dad just told me to wrap it up. So wrapping it up. Yeah. She'll wrap it up.
I would be remiss if I did not plug the Robbins Library and Fox Branch Library as an information resource for any information you need. And our librarians have a code of ethics for confidentiality and privacy, so your information queries, no matter what they are safe with our librarians. Also, our children's department has put together a great list of books about gender diversity, which you can find on our blog, and we have book lists of that, so we got your information covered. So we're going to transition to book signing and photos with Nicole and Wayne. Okay, anyways, so she'll be back there. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Nicole and Wayne.